identify.
I am the dreamer. You are the dream.
Subdirectory navigation. Experiment Gamma. Please enter access code. Submitting access code 75.
Your presence has been detected and recorded. Thank you.
Kill you, or easily send you to the emergency room. So the cure would be much worse than the disease. We must not panic. The key thing here is don't panic. There's no reason to panic yet. And if I'm right, there will not be a reason to panic, and here's why.
I love the way you said yet.
Well, because you have to always leave the door open that things will happen that you don't anticipate. Like, presidents never deal with their agenda. They deal with things that happen in the world after their agenda is put on the table. So here's the interesting thing. The only way these bizarre fluctuating readings make sense to me, again, 5,000 miles away and not able to get near this place, is if someone is doing something technologically in secret combating the radiation. In other words, using torsion field physics to do what exactly should have been done decades ago all over the planet in terms of nuclear energy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, how can I make this statement on national radio? Because
you're you.
Because I have data. Because back in 1995, on ABC's Good Morning America, my friend Mike Gillian, who was the science editor for ABC, who had actually talked to me a couple of times on air about our Mars investigation, which is how I knew where his thinking was, he had some people on from Florida, from a laboratory, who had created a device called the Patterson Power Cell, which was a cold fusion technology. He was doing a segment in the idea, could cold fusion supplement nuclear energy needs? And as part of the live demonstration, Georgia, this is going to actually, that's why I told you to fasten your seatbelt. On live network television in 1995 in July, I think on July 11th, we watched for 1.7 hours the nuclear radiation, the deadly radiation from U-235 as it fissions, which normally has a half-life of 4.5 billion years, which is a bit longer than the show. It was reduced by half in 1.7 hours, live on television. And the video is all over the internet on YouTube. Now, that's impossible by any known physics that we know, but not for torsion field physics or hyperdimensional torsion field physics. This is a stunning example of the suppressed technology that someone, I think, based on these wildly contradictory radiation readings that come and go and come and go and come and go out of Japan, that someone is desperately trying to secretly, on our side, use this technology to remediate the radiation, and they're trying to keep up with what's happening in those reactors, which are partially melting down. The fuel ponds are being uncovered, from water, so the spent fuel rods are getting hotter and catching fire. That's why we have all these fires. Now, there's no reason why you should have fires in a plant where there's no electricity,
right,
unless some energy source is supplying enough energy to cause flammable things to connect with oxygen and burst into flame. So I'm watching this and I'm saying, okay, this is the terrestrial example of the war, the hidden space war I've been discussing now on this show for months, which I'm going to be presenting good data in Amsterdam to document and confirm various aspects of the model. And I'm thinking that since they're on the job, since the radiation readings have not gone where they normally would have gone, in other words, gone Chernobyl, that we're watching an active war to keep the radiation in check. And that's why Tokyo today could say, oh, the water's fine. You cannot get rid of iodine in a natural water supply, which is collected from a large aquifer or a large watershed into reservoirs and then pumped into people's homes in one day.
No,
there's no way.
There is no way.
So we're looking at the circumstantial evidence of them finally doing what we've been saying for decades, 2 decades at least they should be doing, use this technology for the betterment of humankind. Now, they're not going to tell us. They will attribute it, obviously, in the cover-up story to the valiant efforts of the workers who, of course, really are doing incredible service. But I believe that that is what is going on, and if it is, and it goes on long enough, they may make mistakes to where this technology comes into view. Because when you have the whole world watching, and there's nothing, you know, as Mark Twain used to say, like the prospect of a good hanging to concentrate the mind, there's a lot of folks watching Fukushima, which means that things that normally would skate by will not skate by this time. Now, that brings me back to HAARP. One interpretation, which I am not, you know, married to, but I'm willing to entertain, is that the HAARP signature we're seeing is an effort by the good guys to avert the crisis and prevent the earthquake, and they fail because the bad guys are either quicker, slicker, or have more technology, and they weren't able to get there quite in time.
Interesting concept, Richard.
Now, the reason that it all goes back to what's going on in the Middle East, a la Libya and Egypt and Tunisia, is as part of my consciousness physics presentation that second night, you know, on Friday night, or actually it was Thursday night, I proposed the model that what's really happening is that as the physics changes in the whole solar system, particularly here on Earth, these ancient temples, these ancient sacred sites, which have been built all over the world, from the Mayan temples that I measured with Robin when we went to Mexico and Guatemala, to the Great Pyramid, to the stuff that's in the Far East, to Stonehenge, to all of these mysterious places that modern science can't seem to figure out, that in fact they basically have one purpose, which is to amplify this physics and to change consciousness, to change our interaction with our environment. So as the physics changes, we get more in touch, plugged in, conscious, fear drops away, we become real human beings, and that seems to be what is occurring in an unprecedented manner across a huge swath of the Middle East along that line stretching from the Great Pyramid east and west, and I think that's what's going on in Libya. I can't prove it yet, but it is going to be intriguing as heck to see what happens in the days and weeks to come, because as you've said in these promos, nothing like we have ever seen before is taking place, and it's going to take place at an increasing rate. By 2012, God knows where we're going to be. But it's like we arrive back on another planet after the cruise, because it's now seeming to conform to the predictions of the model.
Stay tuned for that, Richard. Let's wrap things up with some final calls here. Mike in Eugene, Oregon. Go ahead, Mike. You're on with Richard C. Hoagland.
Wow. Two genius generalists.
Well, at least one, Richard.
Yeah, I think you both are.
Well, you are, George. Come on.
Well,
you can't sit there night after night and not become one.
No, I don't have your mind, though, Richard. You know that.
Well, you're both generalists.
What's the question?
The question is, I have two, but I was going to raise the second one secondly, but now I'm going to raise it first because I heard you on Red Ice Radio, your interview a week ago.
Yes.
And you mentioned that there's a covert space war going on, and I've been sort of listening in for that with different people being interviewed. As far as, existing Nazis in a different form, and the banksters or whoever may be what we consider apparent or visible right now, and you call them the good guys.
No, I did not. No, look, there's no way I can document anything in the time I've got remaining. Either go listen to the interview again, or George, better yet, have me back for a full show after we get back from Amsterdam, and I will lay out the evidence that there are extraordinary things going on Earth, that President Obama has been given the really bad review for trying to do the right things, and my major confirmation there is the Mayans. The Mayans are not idiots. The Mayans are not fools. The Mayans have predicted this time somehow, which you yourself have asked, how do they know? If the Mayans are saluting President Barack Obama, it makes me say, pay very close attention, because what he's going to be doing in the next few months leading up to 2012 could in fact save us from catastrophe that others are now planning.
Well, I tell you, Richard, the next year and a half, what a period to be living on this planet.
It's the best time to be here. It's like you got the best e-ticket in town. I wouldn't trade it for a moment because we can control, as Mike says in his book, the direction which we're going, and that's all about the choice because the physics is about using consciousness to change the future and make it what we want, and it's possible, as you and others have demonstrated on this show with those consciousness experiments that you and Art performed.
Let's take another call. We'll go to Nick in New Jersey. We'll squeeze you in here, Nick, before we're done. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening, gentlemen.
Sure.
And it's a pleasure to talk to you. I'm a man of faith. I'm a minister, and there were several things that you were speaking about that I had questions on. The secret for number one is the shuttle, why they're shutting it down so publicly, and I believe there's something significantly going on that they're not telling us about. But as you gentlemen are postulating about the Mayans and about the Middle East, it occurred to me that if there should be an opportunity for, and I was curious what you thought about this, from a scriptural or spiritual side, there are clear answers as to what is going on in the Middle East and what is going on elsewhere. And if you happen to go ahead and do a show down the road, it would be something to consider having individuals that speak about that and could substantiate it to a certain degree.
Yeah, I think we are going to do that, Nick. And Richard, of course, will be part of that program as well. EnterpriseMission.com, that's his website. I go to it every day. You should, too. I'll be back in a moment. Thank you, Richard. Conversations with Richard C. Hoagland. John Rappaport joins us as we talk about genetic engineering of people.